Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you an astounding statistic. These numbers are absolutely hilarious. Why? Because you had 92% negative media coverage against President Trump at his lowest point in terms of approval rating. His lowest point, he reached 34% approval, and that was this year, January 4th through 15th. We know why. That was a horrendous tragedy. Wasn't his fault. In a court of law, they never went after him because he's protected under the First Amendment, and he didn't tell anyone to do anything horrendous or illegal. But you look at the approval rating, generally his highest point was 49%, and that was last year in January and February. March also, it's interesting. April and then May. Well, that's interesting. And his average approval rating was 41%. When you look at the average, I think President Obama was 43 or 44%, something close to that. But President Obama, Bush, other presidents didn't have 92% negative media coverage. President Trump was basically running a 4-2-40 with a 100-pound backpack in terms of public relations and his approval rating. They say that Biden has a 59% approval rating. I don't believe it. I don't think almost 60% of the American public approve of a horrendous humanitarian crisis that's taking place right now at the border. And there are other issues as well. The fact that media and every single possible advantage from social media to late-night talk show hosts like Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert, and you have all of Hollywood. You have almost every CNN, MSNBC, the Washington Post, the New York Times. The entire public relations apparatus is propping up this man. They're not hysterical and apoplectic, and they don't focus on any of his lies, or they don't talk about the horrendous tragedies taking place. They actually blame Trump for every bad thing that happens. So you look, but this is interesting. President Trump at his lowest point was still about over 10 points higher, around 10 points higher, and on average about 20 points higher than Congress. The Democratic-run Congress has an abysmal approval rating of only 21%. A new Rasmussen poll, the poll will be below. They have a horrendous approval rating. The far left can't stand the Democrats in Congress. Obviously, conservatives can't stand the Democrats in Congress. They're not doing anything. There's no immigration bill that they're pushing through legislation. There's no Medicare for All bill, obviously. There's no Green New Deal bill. The only thing they're thinking of is packing the courts, but they have a commission on that. What are they getting done? The only thing that they've actually gotten done was investigate Trump for 3 years. That's it. That's the only thing they've really done. They've been in Congress since late 2018. You had all of 2019, all of 2020. They have the House and the Senate now, and the presidency. And you look, Biden wants to raise taxes. He has a tremendous foreign policy debacle taking place with Putin and Ukraine. And it was said for 4 years that Russia feared the Democratic Party. They love the Democrat, and nobody loves the Democratic Party more than Russia and Putin. Again, I want good relations with Russia, and I want good relations, I want good relations with the country. We learned from 50 years of a Cold War that the planet could be annihilated at any moment because of mutually assured destruction. We don't need that. But it was Democrats who claimed to be the hawks for 4 years. That was part of their irrational, absurd propaganda spin. But ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe right now. Tomorrow evening, Monday, April 19th at 8 p.m. or so, I will have a live stream. It'll be my first live stream in a while, just because I wanted to take a break from live streaming, but I miss it. And tell your friends, tell your family, tell anyone who might enjoy a live stream at 8 p.m. Pacific tomorrow evening. So be here, April 19th, 8 p.m. Pacific for the live stream. Hit subscribe to this channel right now if you want to read my writing. Go to hagoodman.com. You can read my writing in The Hill, The Huffington Post, Salon, The Jerusalem Post, The Federalist, The Roanoke Times, other publications. But here, I want to read you Congressional Performance. And by the way, to my new Patreons, thank you so very, very much. Honestly, your support is extremely important. If you want to support my voice long term, my Patreon is below in the pinned comment description and also on hagoodman.com. But Congressional Performance. This is interesting. You look, majority of voters rate Congress performance poor. Barely 1 in 5 voters approve of the job Congress is doing, and most rate congressional job performance as poor. A new Rasmussen study finds that only 21% of likely U.S. voters rate the way Congress is doing its job as good or excellent. 54% say it's doing a poor job. The numbers haven't changed much since last summer, so nobody rates Congress high. Democrats do nothing, basically. They just, look, they don't run on policies. That's what I've been trying to tell you. I came from the left or far left or whatever. They don't run on policies. They run on emotion. They fabricate and conjure up tinfoil hat fantasies. They run on apoplectic fact-checking hysteria. Where, he's not telling the truth. He's not telling the truth. And they go after Trump's hyperbole while at the same time being the most deceptive political party of all time. They blamed Trump for working alongside Putin in Russia, for being this puppet. They're the ones who didn't provide lethal aid to Ukraine. I did watch my segment prior to this one. They're presiding over foreign policy, a foreign policy nightmare taking place right now in Ukraine. They're presiding over a humanitarian crisis with facilities overrun. So those facilities were deemed by AOC as a certain phrase I won't use, but I wrote in the Jerusalem Post, my op-ed in the Jerusalem Post, exactly why she distorted history in the most shameful manner. And it's such an ignorant, absurd, irrational take on what took place during President Trump's administration. It's so detrimental to historical record that Yad Vashem in Jerusalem told AOC to learn more about the topic and don't equate what was taking place with something an historical time period she should never again talk about. What she essentially did was this revisionist, distorted historical claim just to hurt Trump. And Yad Vashem in Jerusalem said, learn more about the topic. She was dreadfully wrong. And now those same facilities that she once claimed were something that they're not are being overrun. There's more people, less resources, less the standard of living within those locations. The life within those locations is worse than it was at any point during President Trump's administration. I was against the family separation policy. I think that was terrible, horrendous. He ended that in May of 2018. Around May of 2018. President Trump ended that. But all you heard from Democrats, cages, they're still there. And you have more people because they're unaccompanied. And one theory is that, people were basically expecting Democrats to welcome an influx of those who were coming to this country, because Democrats have this image that, they're just so much nicer than mean Trump. But at the same time, it perhaps that exacerbated the problem. I can't really get too into it, but look at President Obama's, the Senate report that talked about all the horrendous things that took place during President Obama's administration. Worse than even the policy I was against during President Trump's administration. Worse. Look at the Senate report and what President Obama's administration allowed to take place, which might be happening now. They don't allow the media. Biden's administration, we want to talk about an authoritarian and a despot and a tyrant. He's not even allowing media to really investigate. Where's AOC looking into a chain-linked fence, specifically telling the photographer not to look, not to have what she's looking at in the photo, because then that would actually disprove her absurd claims. But everything is public relations. Democrats run off of public relations. Public relations entails manufacturing emotion. It's not about truth. It's actually, the less truthful you are in certain PR spins, the better. They run off of public relations. They need Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, Trevor Noah, John Oliver, Stephen Colbert, James Corden, all of Hollywood. They need social media algorithms. They need Twitter. They need cyber realities. They need all of Hollywood. All of Hollywood. They need intelligence operatives. They need the Washington Post, the New York Times, MSNBC, CNN, Vanity Fair, Esquire, the Daily Beast, BuzzFeed, Time Magazine, The Atlantic, New Yorker, New York Magazine. It can go on forever. They need pretty much every foreign affairs, foreign policy, pretty much every publication that has anything to do with politics. I mean, obviously there are conservative publications, great ones like the Washington Examiner and the Federalist and others. But that's maybe 5 or 6. If the Democratic Party does not have every single possible advantage known to man, peoplekind, Justin Trudeau, if they don't have every single in addition to 92% negative media coverage, if they don't have that, then they don't get the approval rating with Biden that they claim to have. And yet still, Congress, like Democrats, have done nothing of note in Congress except impeach Trump twice. They will not. See, their whole thing is, well, we can't implement Medicare for all. I mean, there's some procedural issues, and it wouldn't pass. It wouldn't pass the Senate. I mean, and then you have impeaching Trump, which didn't kick Trump out of office. In fact, they impeached him when he was out of office. So, when Biden was coming in. So, they claim not to be able to implement policies that they, champion and that they campaign on because they're not feasible in getting legislation through, but they will impeach Trump knowing very well the Senate was never going to kick Trump out of office. So they're pragmatic when they want to be. They're not pragmatic when they don't want to be. They're just whatever suits them politically. It has absolutely nothing to do with actual policies. Democrats don't run on policies. They run on peer pressure and groupthink. Republicans in a way, they used to run like that. Mitch McConnell is similar to Pelosi. Mitt Romney is similar to Schumer. The establishment Republicans, the never-Trumpers, by the way, Kinzinger and others, Cheney, they voted alongside Trump 90% of the time. So what they're doing is just a racket. According to 538, they voted alongside Trump 90% of the time. So you're not really going to, if your whole image is that you're this never-Trumper, why did you vote alongside President Trump over 90% of the time? But President Trump is the only person with populist policies that he got implemented. He wanted peace between North and South Korea, and he wanted, better relations. So he was the first president to step foot in North Korea, to begin détente between North and South Korea. President Moon Jae-in of South Korea stated that Trump deserved the Nobel Peace Prize. Abraham Accords, peace between Israel, UAE, Bahrain, Morocco. These are good things that he presided over. Why would you vote for President Trump, even though he's such a horrible, mean monster and he emboldens bad people and da-da-da-da? You want Americans home from never-ending wars and counterinsurgency conflicts? President Trump negotiated a deal on May 1st, 2021 to get Americans out of Afghanistan. Guess what? Biden extended the timeline to September, and he might keep us there forever. I don't trust Biden at all. At all. And so what I'm trying to say is Trump gets things done from a perspective, like there's this notion that, populist policies aren't, as pragmatic as establishment, DC, whether it's establishment Democrats or Republicans, they're more pragmatic. They don't get things done. And they certainly don't want, and they love never-ending conflict and counterinsurgency, quagmires. So what was great about Trump is that President Trump, he said, "Now we should leave," and he pushed to get us out, and he we have a negotiated deal to leave. What the DC establishment does is they say, well, if we leave, then this might happen and that might happen, and oh my goodness. The organization that starts with a T, unfortunately, will run that country very soon. They run most of the country anyway, and we've been there for the past 20 years. That's not the fault of the brave and courageous and heroic men and women that we've sent. We owe them better than to just, send them off to never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts. Also, a counterinsurgency conflict is different from it was what we learned in Vietnam never to get into again. That Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld ignored the lessons, and Democrats ignored the lessons as well. Clinton, Kerry should have known. Biden. But they ignored the lessons learned from history. Anyway, give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now. Trump got things done. Good things. Allocating more funding to historically black colleges and universities than any president ever. Signing prison reform legislation. Biden wrote the crime bill with a 100-to-1 sentencing disparity that apparently benefited his son, who didn't get sentenced or arrested for consuming the same narcotic that 100 other people of color would get arrested or sentenced for. And one person that looks like Hunter Biden, not. That's the 100-to-1 sentencing disparity that Biden actually wrote. But again, Trump is mean. He signed prison reform legislation, but he's mean on Twitter. The best thing that Twitter ever did was ban Trump. It helped Trump immensely. Give me your thoughts below. Be here tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Pacific for the live stream. Thank you.